It was late, past midnight. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I was home alone. My parents were out of town, and I was supposed to be enjoying the freedom. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The wind howled outside. The trees scraped against the siding. The old house groaned like it was alive. I sat on the couch with the TV on low, not really watching, just listening, trying to drown out the silence. And then, I heard it. A sound. Small, quick, like something tapping against glass. I froze, held my breath. Tap, tap, tap. I looked toward the window in the living room. Nothing, just the curtain swaying slightly. Maybe it was a branch. That's what I told myself. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. Minutes passed. I tried to ignore it, turned the volume up, scrolled on my phone, and then it came again. This time louder, harder. Knuckles, on glass. Someone was knocking, on the window. I felt the blood drain from my face. Every muscle in my body tensed. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just stared at the window, waiting, praying. And then, slowly, I saw it. A shadow, tall, thin, standing just outside the window. The curtain shifted, and I swear, I saw a hand press against the glass. My chest tightened. My skin went cold. Someone was outside, watching me. I grabbed my phone, dialed 911, but before I could press call, the shadow moved. It slipped away from the window, out of sight. I waited, listening. The silence was deafening. And then, a sound from the back of the house. Another knock, this time at the kitchen window. I couldn't believe it. He was moving around the house, trying every window. I crawled off the couch, my hands shaking. I moved to the hallway where I could see both the kitchen and the front door. The knocking grew louder, more insistent, and then, a voice. Low, raspy. "Let me in." My stomach dropped. It wasn't just random noise. He was speaking. "Let me in." I pressed myself against the wall. Tears filled my eyes. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. The doorknob rattled. Once, twice, and then silence. I dialed 911. This time I hit call. My voice cracked as I whispered to the operator. "There's someone outside my house and he's trying to get in." She told me to stay calm, stay hidden. Help was on the way. But minutes felt like hours. Every creak of the house made me flinch. And then, the sound again. From the living room window. A loud bang, like someone was slamming their fist against the glass. I peeked around the corner, and I saw him, a man, tall, broad shoulders, his face hidden in the dark. He pressed his forehead against the glass, breathing hard. I could see the condensation forming, the window fogging up from his breath. He whispered again, "Let me in." I couldn't move, couldn't think. And then, the red and blue lights flashed outside. A siren wailed. The man turned his head, looked toward the street, and then, he was gone. I stayed frozen until the police knocked at the door. When I finally opened it, they searched the property. No sign of him, no footprints, nothing. Like he vanished. But I know what I saw, what I heard. Someone was outside trying to get in, and I'll never forget the sound of that voice, whispering through the glass, "Let me in."
It was winter, the kind of night where the cold cuts straight through you, where the world feels dead. I had just gotten home from work. My shift ended late, too late. The neighborhood was quiet, no cars, no people, just the crunch of my boots in the snow. I parked in the driveway, turned off the engine, sat in silence for a moment, and then I saw him. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but no, he was there, a man, standing under the oak tree across the street. Perfectly still, he wasn't moving, not even shivering in the cold, just watching. My stomach tightened. I looked away. Told myself it was nothing, just some neighbor. Maybe waiting for a ride, but when I glanced back, he hadn't moved an inch. Not even his head. I felt exposed, like prey. I grabbed my bag. Rushed to the front door, keys fumbling in my frozen hands. The lock finally clicked. I pushed inside, shut the door hard behind me. I leaned against it, heart pounding. I wanted to believe it was over, that I was safe, but then curiosity got the better of me. I peeked through the blinds in the living room. My breath caught in my throat. He was closer. No longer across the street. Now standing on the edge of my yard. Facing my house, I stumbled back from the window, my mind racing. Should I call the police? What would I even say? I tried to calm down, told myself it was fine, that maybe he'd leave. Minutes passed. I forced myself to check again. And that's when I saw it. His face, not clearly, but enough. He was smiling, a wide, unnatural grin that stretched too far. His eyes locked on mine, even through the glass. I froze, couldn't look away. And then he lifted his hand slowly, deliberately, and waved. That was enough. I shut the blinds. Turned off the lights, grabbed my phone. I dialed 911. My voice shook as I whispered into the receiver. There's a man outside my house. He's just standing there, watching me. The dispatcher stayed calm, said officers were on the way. Told me to stay inside, stay quiet, so I did. I crouched low by the couch. Every muscle tight, listening. The wind whistled outside. The branches rattled against the roof. And then, a sound. Crunch. Boots in the snow, slow, deliberate, getting closer. My breath quickened. I crawled toward the back door, making sure it was locked, checked every window. And then, from the corner of my eye, movement. I looked toward the kitchen window. And there he was, face pressed against the glass. That same horrible grin, fog forming around his mouth as he breathed. I screamed, dropped to the floor. The sound of my own heartbeat filled my ears. The dispatcher's voice was still on the line, asking me what happened. I couldn't even answer. The man's hand lifted. He started tapping the glass, slow, rhythmic, like a clock. Counting down, and then headlights, blue and red flashing across the walls, sirens cutting through the silence. The man disappeared, gone in an instant. The officers searched the property. No footprints, no sign of him. But I know what I saw, I know what was there, and I'll never forget that face, that smile, and the way he waved at me, like he already knew me.
It was raining. Not a light drizzle, but heavy, relentless. The kind of rain that drowns out every other sound. The kind that makes the world feel isolated. I was home alone, curled up on the couch with a blanket, the lamp dim, the storm pounding outside. It should have been comforting, but it wasn't. Something about the night felt wrong. Every few minutes I found myself glancing at the window, at the shadows shifting behind the glass, at the water running down like tears. I tried to focus on the book in my lap, tried to ignore the anxiety crawling in my chest. But then, I heard it, a sound that didn't belong. Through the roar of the rain, I heard footsteps, slow, heavy, deliberate, on the porch. I froze, my eyes locked on the door, listening. The steps moved closer, wood creaking under the weight. Someone was out there, standing on my porch. I grabbed my phone, held it tight in my hand. But I didn't dial. Not yet. I wanted to be sure. The rain pounded harder. The wind howled, but beneath it all, knock. A single sharp knock on the door. I jumped. My heart slammed against my ribs. I didn't move, didn't answer. Another knock, this time louder, and then a voice. "Hey, I need help." It was low, muffled through the door. But it didn't sound right. Too calm, too steady. Every instinct in my body screamed at me, "Don't open it." I swallowed hard, forced my voice to come out. "Who are you?" Silence.
No answer. And then, slowly, the doorknob rattled. I backed away, step by step. The voice came again, closer. "Let me in." It was almost a whisper now, sharp, wrong. I shook my head, tears welling in my eyes. "I'm calling the police," I shouted, but the voice didn't respond. The rattling stopped. Silence. I thought maybe he was gone, that he gave up. But then, I heard it again, not at the door, at the side of the house. Footsteps, moving along the porch, dragging across the wood, heading toward the windows. I backed further into the room, pulled the curtains shut. And then, a shadow, a face, pressed against the glass, pale, distorted by the raindrops, but unmistakable. He was looking in. I gasped, dropped to the floor. The window creaked as his hand pressed flat against it, fingers long, spreading wide. And then that voice again. So quiet, I almost couldn't hear it. "I can see you." I scrambled away, heart pounding, breath sharp and shallow. I finally dialed 911, my voice trembling as I whispered what was happening. The dispatcher stayed calm, told me to stay hidden. Help was coming. But I didn't feel safe. Not with him outside. Not with his face pressed against the glass. And then, a new sound. Wood splitting. Cracking. He was trying the back door. I could hear the handle shaking violently, the hinges groaning under the force. I held the phone so tight my knuckles went white, tears streaming down my face. And then, silence. No more rattling, no more footsteps, just the storm. I waited, listening, praying. Minutes passed, felt like hours, and then, flashing lights, red and blue cutting through the rain. The police. I ran to the door, unlocked it, pulled it open. 2 officers stood there, soaked from the storm. They swept through the house, checked the yard, the porch. But there was no one. No footprints, nothing disturbed, like no one had ever been there at all. But I know what I heard, what I saw, the footsteps on the porch, the face at the window, and that voice, low and steady. "I can see you.